welcome to episode 107 of the arieknits podcast. My name is Ariel, and this is a video podcast where I talk about all the things that I have been knitting and spinning on for the past week. Today, it is Saturday, February 22nd, and earlier this morning, I finally uploaded my Everything I've Made in 2024 video. I know it is at the end of the second month in the year, and I, haven't uploaded it yet, but thank you so much for your patience. I finally did it. I spent this past week really just focused on editing that and making sure it gets out to you all before it gets way too late in the year. So thank you all for your patience. I hope you enjoy it. It is very long. I know some of you have commented saying it will be a video you watch throughout the rest of this coming week, and so I think that is great. I can keep you company for an entire week, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's fun to watch, and and that you can just kind of see all in one place everything I've made in the year of 2024. So I'm glad that is out. The editing is done, and it was just fun to also, while I was editing it, right, I have to also look at it and watch it, and it was kind of cool to, again, just go through and see everything that I've made. Some things I forgot is, I forgot I made it in 2024. Some things I was like, wow, I've wore that so much since when I finished it, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what 2025 is going to bring. So thank you so much for, if you were all just really patiently waiting for that video. It's finally up. Hope you enjoy it. Okay, let's talk about for this past week. I have one new cast on, and I've just been working a whole bunch on my test knits, my other knits, and I have a couple finished objects, which is really fun, and some future plans coming up in the next couple of weeks. So let's start with what I'm wearing. It is something that one of my things I finished in 2024. When I was editing my video, I saw this top and I was like, oh yeah, I want to wear this more. I think I made a comment saying it seems like a hard thing to wear because it's a Suri short-sleeved shirt, and how do you wear it? And I was like, I should just wear it as a vest, over a long sleeve. I don't know why I didn't think about it. I was waiting for it to be warmer weather to wear this, but I can still wear it now over a long sleeve, and so that's what I'm doing and experimenting with today, and it is very cozy. I'm really into the vests and wearing my vests, especially this year. So I guess towards the end of last year and this year, I'm trying to lean into wearing my knitted vest, even though this is not a vest, but I'm wearing it, like a vest. This is the Nebula by Andrea Mowry. I used Explorer Knit Suri Alpaca Lace held double in the colorway Grapefruit, and I knit size 2, and I used US 7 needles or 4.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And final measurements is 44 inches in circumference right at the bust area, right under the arms. There is shaping on this where it gets narrower towards the hem. So right at the underarm where it is the widest, it is 44 inches for me, and that gives me 14 inches of positive ease. I will stand up now, and you can see just how cute this is. You can see because my shirt is straight cut across, but the Nebula has an optional short row shaping so that you can have this cute little curve right in the front, and I love a little curved hem, and so that's really fun. This was worked bottom up, and you can see short sleeve. If I move closer, you might be able to see there's some ribbing detail right at the shoulders here. Yeah, actually maybe on this side you can see it better. 3 needle bind off right at the top, and I think it was very cute. It was a pretty fun knit, if I remember correctly. I remember wanting to make this again. Probably in the pattern there's instructions for short sleeve and long sleeve, and so I was like, if I make this again, I'll probably do the long sleeve. But now I'm wearing this, I'm wearing my short sleeve version like this. I actually really like it, and so I would be, if I have a smaller amount of a Suri yarn quantity that could make me another short sleeve, I would definitely do that. I think this is really fun. It keeps, I think I've said this before, but one thing I do like about wearing knitted kind of vest shirts over long sleeves is that sometimes I really want just kind of something just like a normal long sleeve shirt. I don't want any kind of worry about my knitted sleeves kind of getting in the way or getting dirty, but I still want to wear something knitted and I still want to be cozy. So this does keep me nice and warm in my body, and you know, if I'm going out, then it's really easy to just put on a jacket and not have to worry again about my knitted sleeves or anything like that kind of getting in the way or getting bunched up in the jacket. I can just wear this and put a jacket over and I'm really nice and toasty. So this was my outfit for today. I went out for a little bit, went to plant nursery, you know, walking outside, just like in the outside, I guess. And it was really nice and warm, nice and comfortable, and yeah. So I think I will be getting more wear out of this this year now that I know how to wear it, I guess. So yes, this is the Nebula, and I finished it sometime last year. Let's move on to my finished objects for this week. Now, I'm calling them finished objects because the only thing I need to do is to wash and block them, but it's all done, knitted, and all the ends are woven in. So I was meaning to wash and block them last night so that they would be fully done for the video, but time is just getting away from me lately. But I'm going to show them to you anyway. These are my Euterpe socks by Sari and Nordlund. I finished them, both socks. The yarn I used for this is some sock yarn that I dyed by myself, and I think the color is really nice. I'm really happy with it. It's a pretty solid color, and so I thought that would be really nice with a very like cable-y sock pattern. I knit size 1, and I used US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles to knit this. This pattern is in Sari Nordlund's Softly Timeless Knits book, and I believe that this is the second pattern that I have knit out of that book, and so I'm really looking forward to knitting more out of that book this year, because last year I wanted to knit more out of it, and I just didn't. And so maybe this year it'll actually happen. I am putting the sock on my hand so that you can see better what the stitch pattern is like. It is this like zigzaggy cable pattern on the front. I really like it because you can see that they are twisted stitches that are going across like this, and there's kind of like two, you know, next to each other versus like the one kind of like looking like it's going behind it. And so I really, really like that. It was a little bit finicky to work on, I will say, because it is pretty much every other round you have to do some kind of cabling, and doing that on, you know, fingering weight sock small needles, you know, the loops are really small, and I prefer to cable without a cable needle, so I had to just be really careful when knitting this. And so this was not, you know, like a do this and watch TV kind of knit. I really had to like focus, but the results are totally worth it. Oh, and there's also like a small kind of like cable section on the sides there. And then when it reaches the leg part, I do want to show you, there is an actual different cable pattern that happens on the back here, on the leg. And I really like this diamond kind of traveling twisted knit stitch that happens right in the center, and then on the sides here is this really cool twisting kind of cable. This one was a little harder to work because I think you had to do like a 3/2, or you know, which one of those ways, and again, doing that on very small needles was a little difficult, but not impossible. So yeah, finished both socks. I think the only modification that I made is to make the leg, this leg length 1 inch shorter, because otherwise I think it would just be pretty long for my preference. I'm like starting to learn a little bit more about how long I like this part of my socks to be. But yeah, it all worked out really great. These are toe-up socks, and I really do like toe-up socks. It is a heel flap and gusset worked toe-up, and so I personally really like, I mean, it looks just like the heel flap and gusset. if you work them cuff down, but it is worked toe up, and I think it is magical, and I love it. So that was really fun and really great to knit, and it is a twisted rib at the top with a tubular bind off, and I really enjoy a tubular bind off for my socks as well. So it all worked out really nice. I am probably going to wear these a whole bunch once I wash and block them. And these are my February socks for 2025. If you've not heard me talk about it before, I am doing kind of like a year of socks with my friends this year, and we all have our yarn kind of like picked out for the year, or I think most of us have our yarn picked out for the year. And so my goal is to do 1 pair of socks every month, so that's a total of 12 socks. These are my February socks, and it is the end of February, so I've made it for February. So January, February is done. I'm feeling really good. I am enjoying working on socks lately, and I'm looking forward to my March socks. I already have the yarn planned out. As I said before, I have it planned out for each of the months for the rest of the year, and I'm just trying to think now of a pattern for March. I don't think I'm going to cast those on until actually March happens, although I think I cast these on right at the end of January, so that could also maybe happen with my March socks, but I do think maybe just have a little breather of sock knitting for a little bit before I start the next ones. But I'm excited for my March socks. I can't wait to show it to you all. The yarn is really happy, and I have an idea of which sock pattern I want to do, but I'm still thinking over it. So I can't wait to share it with you all once I decide. But yeah, so these are my February socks. Really happy with them. They've hit many goals of mine this year, and that makes me happy. Not only because it's a goal, but just like these goals make me happy. So, you know, these are like hand-dyed yarn by me socks. They're a pattern from Sari Nordlund's book, which I have and I love, and I want to make more of the patterns out of it, and you know, my year of socks, and so it all just makes me really happy. So these are great. Finished that this week, and then maybe not to your surprise, I have finished this sweater. This is the Seaway Pullover by Ozetta. The yarn I use is Harrisville Designs Daylights in the colorway Bloodshot. And I knit size extra small. I use US 7 needles or 4.5 millimeter needles to knit this. And it is wonderful. It is gorgeous. It just needs a good blocking. This is probably not like, it's looking a little scrunched up because it's, again, not washed and blocked. So, and because it's all cables all over, although it is, you know, not as dense cables, it definitely needs a good blocking. But it is done. All the sleeves, all of the ribbing, it's all done. Really happy. Actually, it's kind of funny. The sleeves look really short, but I think it's just because they're pretty wide. But I did try it on, and it does fit. It fits really nicely. I'm curious to see, again, how it lays on me after it's washed and blocked, because this yarn does, I think, bloom pretty nicely. Like, I don't think it grows a ton, but it does kind of loosen up. You can see like it looks a little stiff, and it does kind of have that wooliness to it. But I think after washing, it will kind of soften's not really the right word. It'll be a little less stiff after washing. So I'm excited for that. I'm hoping and planning to do that later tonight, and then I'm hoping that I can actually wear this for you all in next week's video. I really enjoyed working on this pattern. The cables, again, are just like these really spread out cables. They're not like really close together, and so it does have that, you know, watery kind of like ripple effect. I think that's what the designer was going for, and it was really nice too because you can work a lot of rows in stockinette without having to cable, and so this was a nice relaxing knit, and that I could watch TV while knitting this. The yarn was great. This is my second time using this yarn. Again, it's Harrisville Designs Daylights, and I believe it's a Kermode yarn, and it has a very different feel knitting with and like the final like fabric of this than just like a superwash yarn or a merino yarn. It has a wooliness, but it's not scratchy. It has a stiffness, but it's not like crunchy. It does have it is soft. It is soft. And I can wear this, next to skin. So I love it. I will say, I don't think I've mentioned this, but I probably should have. It does have a wool smell. You know how I think most other yarn, superwash yarn or like hand-dyed yarn, when you wash and block it is when you can like smell the wool. But this one, you can smell it as you're close to it. It's a very wool smell, but I love it. But it has a wool smell. And so, yeah. Also, when I was knitting through this, there is quite a bit of like plant matter in the yarn, and I just pick them out as I'm knitting with it. Because sometimes, like, especially if you're like watching TV and you're knitting and you're not looking, like if there's a big chunk, sometimes I knit continentally, and so my yarn is really like tensioned right on my index finger, and it will sometimes like poke me like while I'm knitting. I was like, ooh. So when that happens, I'll just pick it out. And so when I'm knitting on this sweater, I do have like a little pile of just the little bits of like plant stuff that's in there. And I didn't find that annoying. Maybe other people will. But, the yarn's great. So I think it was worth going through it and doing that. Also because it's like you can do it while you're knitting. It's not like you have to pick them all out and then knit. It's like just as you knit, when you come across it, you just pick it out and put it down. So anyway, that was really great. This was really great knits. I'm very happy that it's done. And I can finally match. If you don't watch Emily Curtis from Gently Chaotic Knits, you definitely should. But she's one of my friends, and she had knit this sweater, this exact same yarn, and I was like, I love that so much. I want to match her exactly. And so now we can be twins, like actual twins, and I am really pumped about that. And so I hope we can get some like really cute pictures of us together wearing our matching Seaways. So yeah, it's done. Just needs a good blocking, and then then you'll see it fully done and me wearing it, and we'll love it. Okay, one thing I did want to mention, I almost forgot about this detail. Last time I talked about this, I was talking about the ribbing, the 1x1 rib, because I was saying that I really don't like my 1x1 rib. I've talked about this before, and you are all so kind and helpful to give me tips, and this time I did specifically watch Andrea Mowry's video tutorial on combination knitting, and I believe that's what it's called, a combination ribbing, where it is supposed to make your tension, I think, more even when you're doing 1x1 rib, so that you don't have like that weird gap thing that I was talking about. And I tried it for, I forget which, it was this sleeve. I tried it. I guess it doesn't matter, because what happened was I tried it for the ribbing of this, and it looked even worse. And I've tried combo knitting before to try and fix my ribbing, and it hasn't worked. This time though, I think whatever tutorial I followed before was different for some reason than the one, or how Andrea Mowry was doing it. And so I did do hers, and I was really hopeful that it was going to work, and it didn't look better. It actually, I think, kind of looked worse. Also, my gauge was super loose doing that. Like, it was, when I compared the widths of my sleeve, because I've had one finished, I was working on the second one, it was like a couple inches. I don't know, that's exaggeration, maybe like 1 inch this way. Well, I guess 1 inch this way flat would be like 2 inches in circumference bigger. It was huge. It was so loose. I couldn't get it to be tighter. I could go down needle size. I could have, done some of those things, but I was like, also because this yarn is a little bit stickier, like it's not slippery. And so it is a little bit harder to like tug and make the stitches tighter. And so I was like, I'm just going to knit it my normal way. And I did do, if you watched last week's video, I talked about what I was doing to make the knit stitches on this look nicer. I was just like going through almost every single column, but like every other stitch down the column and pulling on them to make them tighter. And that's what I did. I did that for all of the ribbing, and there's so much ribbing on this, including on the hem of this. It is so much ribbing. But I did it because I needed to do that so that I could enjoy looking at it, because I did not like looking at my 1x1 rib. Would anyone else notice the difference? I don't know, but I noticed it, and so I needed to do that for myself. And I didn't mind doing it, you know, but thankfully that's done. And I am not opposed to trying the combo knitting again. I just think it wasn't meant to be for this sweater, for this yarn. I will try it again in the future to see if I can, maybe I need more practice with it to make it better. But, and also if you haven't heard about it, it is, I think because most people's tension with 1x1 rib is kind of like funky with the purl stitch, and so you do kind of like work it, the idea, or like what you do is that for the purl stitches in your 1x1 rib, you wrap the yarn the other way around your needle versus, I forget which way, I guess would it be clockwise instead of counterclockwise, and then when you go around again, you would knit them through the back loop and then still do it clockwise, I think. And you would just do that. And it's supposed to fix the tension. Again, I'm not opposed to it, to trying it again with a different pattern, a different yarn, different gauge, but it didn't quite work for me for this sweater. So I just had to do it my really long other way to do it. But I'm happy with the results this time. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to wearing this and having it. It's really, really pretty. I love it. Love it. Okay, so that is my Seaway pullover. And those are my 2 finished objects for the week. Let's talk about my whips. I have half exciting progress, half just progress. Let's start with the just progress things, I guess, which are my test knits. I want to talk about this one first. This is my Kermode hoodie by Winter's Weather Knits, and it is, okay, let me details first and then we'll talk about it. It's a Boucle hoodie. It is gorgeous. It is cozy. It is using Julie Asselin Boucle yarn in the colorway Dentelle, which is this really nice purple color. And I am knitting size extra small. I'm using US 4 needles or 3.5 millimeter needles to knit this. I had to size down my needles for this because my Boucle knitting tension is always pretty loose. And again, this is a test knit. So should I actually just like this thing, like it's gonna be really hard to show you like everything because it is so massive. So I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna put on what I have so you can see this because it's really fun. It is an open cardigan hoodie. I am not done knitting on this, but I do wanted to show you where I'm at. So it is worked kind of like top down, but then you do the hood later. And I'm still attached to needles here. So it's looking a little weird, but let me put on the hood. Look how nice and cozy this is. And these are the sleeves. I talked about the construction on this before. I don't want to go in too much detail about it again, but it is worked flat, basically like in panels like this, top down, up, stand up. You can see kind of like the length on this, even though I'm not done with the hem. The hem is folded, and I haven't sewn in on the folded thing. There are pockets, which is really fun. I didn't finish sewing the pockets yet, but there's going to be pockets on the side here. And so you can see I'm almost done. The hood is knitted. The part that I'm working on right now, which is pretty much the last part that I need to knit, is the double knit border. The double knit, but I want to say button band, but there's no buttons. So I'm gonna take this off now. Or maybe, let me quickly just show you, and then I'll take it off and then show you some more. I started the double knit band here on this side. It goes all the way up. It goes all the way around the hood, and then goes back down on this side. So you can see here, this is where I've stopped on that double knit trim. And you can see how thick, like how wide of this double knit band it is. I love it. It's really nice. And I'm trying to figure out what the word I'm trying to think about is for this, but like the thickness, oh, here, you can see it better because it's kind of like where I picked up. The thickness of this band, I want to say is probably like, actually I have my tape measure here. It's almost 3 inches wide, but it is luxurious. It is a thick, nice double knit band, and it is such a nice edging to have on this hoodie. It's very nice. I love it. Picking up the stitches for this, again, it goes from one side of the hem, from the bottom hem all the way around the hood and all the way to the other side. I am knitting the smallest size, and I had to pick up. The pattern doesn't state a number, and so I don't know how close or not I am to what the designer was thinking stitch-wise, because it is just, I believe it's like knit every stitch around. I am at like 550 stitches I had to pick up, and that's that many stitches to do a double knit band that is almost 3 inches thick, wide. And I was like, after I did that pickup, I was like, holy cow. This is gonna be a ton of knitting, because double knitting already feels like it takes forever. And I've never had to do one with that many stitches before in pickup and also width-wise. And in Boucle, I was kind of nervous on if it would be really hard to do this with Boucle. And it is a little more finicky, because if you've done double knit bands before, you like knit and then slip, knit and slip. And so the slipping sometimes, like, it's hard to see which one you're actually looking at. But after a while, you get the hang of it. But it creates a really nice, like this, the border of this feels fantastic. It feels so, so, so nice. So I would say worth it, but I am crazy. So yeah, but I really like the final result. It feels so great. It has a weight to it that's just gonna add to that like big cozy hoodie feel. Now there is a reason why I stopped where I was, because I got a lot done considering it was only 1 week doing that much. I powered through this a ton, because when I started knitting the double knit, I was on my last skein of yarn, and I went into it, I guess I should, well, okay, from last week, I had to finish the hood. So last week I didn't even have a finished hood. So when I was on my last skein of yarn, I had to finish up the hood, which I didn't measure, but maybe was like 20 grams of yarn to finish the hood, or maybe 15 grams or something like that of my last skein to finish the hood. Then came the band, the trim, and I was like, am I gonna have enough yarn to finish this? Because it's huge, it's double knit, it's really wide, I don't know. And so I wanted to power through and get enough knitting on it done to see if I was going to run out of yarn and have to order it, because I bought this yarn specifically for this test knit, and there was no more yarn of this to buy after I bought this yarn for the test knit. So I wanted to know right away if what was gonna have to happen, if I was gonna have to like special order it. So we were able to, because this yarn was like available to the test knitters to order for the test knit, we bought it through Montricot. They're a Canadian yarn shop. I've bought from them I think once before for like another test knit for a different designer. And they have like a connection with Julie Asselin and her yarn and the colorways, and so I think that like collaboration is like how that all worked out. And so I had to ask if there was any possible way for me to get this yarn in this colorway again. I figured out, I was like, I just need one more skein, which kind of sucks because like, you know, doing all that shipping stuff just for one skein. I felt really bad needing to do that. This is the first time I think that I have run out of yarn for a test knit. And I'm just kind of wondering if I made a mistake somewhere, because the yardage and again, for test knit, yardage is always like something that is part of feedback because the designers don't know. Like, they can give their best shot at yardage estimates for the size, but again, it's a test knit, and so at the end is when they figure out how close or not their yardage estimates were to people's actual knitting experience. And so with that in mind, I did order an extra skein the first time around. So for my size, the yardage estimates said I would need 6 full skeins plus 2 yards. That was the yardage. It was 6 full skeins of this specific yarn. So I didn't sub the yarn. This is the yarn for the pattern. Obviously, you can sub the yarn if you want, but I went with the yarn that the designer used for this design. 6 full skeins plus 2 yards. And I was like, well, I could just buy 6 skeins, but because it's a test knit and this yarn is pretty special and it would suck to run out, I went ahead and bought 7 skeins. I was like, that should be super, super safe. That is basically a full skein extra, because usually yardage estimates estimate over what you might actually use, right? So I really thought I was going to have 1 full skein extra after this, but it turns out I needed another skein. And it's not just, let me show you how much more of this double knit band I have. I have this much more, and so I don't think that is anything close still to the 7 skeins. Like, I do for sure need this 8th skein of yarn, which sounds crazy. Also, I was like, did I just misplace a skein? Did I misplace a skein somewhere in my house? And that's why I think I ran out, but I actually didn't. And so 2 things. 1, I can't find it. It could still be hidden, right? Like, just because I couldn't find it doesn't mean it's not hiding. But I can't find it. And I also did weigh all of what I have. And it is around 700 grams right now. So I really do need an 8th skein. And I'm going to guess I might need to use like maybe 20 grams of it to finish this trim, this double knit trim. And this hoodie has little ears on the top, which really, they're so small, they're not going to take that much yarn, but I also do want to knit those too. So that is what's happening right now on this hoodie. And so right now I've used up all the yarn that I have right here, so I cannot continue knitting on this until I get that yarn. I was able to, they're so nice, I was able to order 1 more skein of yarn. They got that shipped really quickly. I guess dyed and shipped. I'm not totally sure, because that colorway was not available on the website anymore until I asked for it. So they got it dyed and shipped really, really quickly. So I'm so, so thankful. And I feel so bad for having to do that. to them, but I'm very thankful that they were able to do that so that I could finish this test knit. And the designer said, you know, I'm glad that I was able to catch this in time before the deadline, which is at the end of March, and so really there is still like 1 more month left. So I'm not concerned about the deadline, but she did say if this causes any issues with timelines that she would be happy to give more time to finish. So I'm really thankful. Everyone's been so nice and so kind. I just feel so bad for kind of like needing to ask for like a special 1 more skein of this. But I'm hoping everything is going to turn out well, and I'll have some yardage feedback for this test knit. No one else has mentioned running out of yarn, and so I don't know how far along. I don't think people are as far along as I am on theirs, so that could be why, but there is one person who's finished and they haven't said anything, and so again, I'm kind of worried like I missed something. But I even checked my gauge. My gauge is different in different parts of this, I think because it's so huge. That's a little wonky, but overall, like actual measurements, like the schematic measurements, they're all right there. They're spot on. So I don't know if it's a gauge issue either. I'm just not sure. So a little worried, but it's more of a me thing, more of a me worry about this, and not anything to do with the designer or the yarn or anything like that. Just a me worry. But besides those things, I finished the hood, and the trim around the hood is all done now too. I mean, just almost like right, I kind of stopped right after the hood, or right there. So the trim around the hood is done, and so this is what the hood is actually going to look like. I guess minus the ears. I want to add the ears. This hood construction is different than the other knitted hoods and hoodies that I've made, and it's going to be a little hard to explain, but I will show you just the side profile of this. It is more pointy than the other hoods that I've made, and it is knit flat. There's no short rows like the other hoods, but what this one does is it's basically knit flat like this, and then right at the top, it's hard to see, but you can see there's a seam here, and that's because after you knit the whole thing flat, if you can think of it like this, like a flat panel, there's some increases that happen too, but then you fold it like this, and then you do a 3-needle bind off down across like the half point. So that's how you get that part of the hood, and I thought that was genius. I was like, I don't know how this hood's being made right now and how the shape is, but it worked out really nicely. So yeah, so what I got done, I'm gonna just like put on the hood part right now, like a cape, but wow, it's so cozy. Yeah, so from last week, I finished the hood, and then I did a whole bunch of the double knit band over halfway, but I still have a ways to go on it, just waiting for some yarn. But it's really comfortable to wear. I think once this is done, I'm going to just wear this every single day, though, and so yeah, it's just, wow, it's like so massive. It's pretty heavy, but so cozy. Boucle is like, I love the feeling of boucle. I think it's really soft. And I don't know. I like how it looks. I like how it feels. It's great. And so I'm excited for the finished object of that. But okay, so that was one of my test knits that I'm working on. Okay. Next test knit. This is the prettiest thing I feel like I've ever knit. I'm going to keep saying that every time I show it to you all. This is the Maeve vest by Chen. The yarn I'm using is Royal Bee Yarn Company fingering weight yarn in a pink colorway that I don't think has a name. And I'm holding it with Sewrella yarn Suri lace in the colorway Cashmere. And so they're both pink colors, but the Suri is a bit more of a gray pink, and so it kind of just like tones it down to just be more of a gray pink, and I absolutely love it. I am knitting size 1. I'm using US 4 needles, 3.5mm needles to knit this, and I'm trying to remember, I was like, I don't know if I've mentioned that I did do the ribbing on the neck, and so now you can actually, if I hold it like this and you don't see the bottom, it looks like almost like it's done. But this top part is now, you know, looks a lot more complete. It's really nice. Of course, have to show off every single time the cable armholes. It's just the best thing I've ever seen. Love the stitches, the cables in the front. There's cables everywhere. There's seed stitch everywhere, and it is a lot of work. I am working on the body now. Let's flip it upside down so you can see progress-wise. This is my stitch marker from last time, and so I think I worked maybe like a pattern, cable chart repeat and a half from last time, and I think I have a couple more inches to go in the cable pattern until the recommended length before starting the ribbing. But yeah, I'm just continuing to work on it. It is such a pretty knit. Like, it's going to be, I'm super in my vest era right now. And I really can't wait to wear this just like all the time. So I haven't done a try on of this yet. I like just moved it to some different needles, same size needles, but the circular needles I was using before on the body were a little too long. Like, they were right on, like, they were basically the circumference of my knitting, and so it made it kind of like weird, just a little stretched out, and I didn't like it. And also those were I think they were my Takumi circular needles, the interchangeable needles, which don't, when the screw on the needle on those are my first like set of needles, and so I kept them. I have better needles now, but I've kept them to use them because more needles is always good when you have a lot of projects going at the same time. But I was using that for this, and I don't know how I got through all of the cables with those, because all the time they would unscrew while I'm knitting and the yarn gets caught in the little groove, and working cables with 2 yarn strands held together, and one of them being a Suri, it just made it extra crazy. I don't know why I didn't switch needles sooner. Probably because these needles were on other projects. But I've switched them out now so that I won't have to deal with any unscrewing. These are my Leica needles, which I really like. So anyway, they're on smaller needles now. So if I want to try this on, I'm going to have to put them on stitch holders, which I'll probably do that once I reach length, so I can see if I like the length, and then we'll go from there. But yes, it is really pretty. Love it. Love my color choice. I'm just very happy with this. And did I mention this is a test knit? So keep an eye out for this pattern. It's, I think this is also due sometime at the end of March. So there's still some time to go before, you know, the pattern comes out for this, but I think it's really going to be a great one. I love test knitting for Emily Chen. This is my second time test knitting for her, and it's an overall really enjoyable experience. She is super on it and really open to suggestions, and I just there have been some pattern questions on this one. I think for some different sizes, some charts had to get changed a little bit just because there's a lot going on. I think that there was just some areas that needed a little more help, but she was super on it and really fast at replying to people's questions and getting their any of their issues like figured out. And so really great, really nice. I love that from a test knit from a designer. So Maeve vest, great, love, absolutely love. Can't wait to have this as a finished object. Okay, and now on to, I would call these two were fun updates, but nothing I feel like super dramatic change look. But I worked on, this was a knit that I worked on a lot after I stopped working on my Kermode hoodie. This is my clay sweater by Ozetta. I'm going to hold it up because it actually kind of looks like a sweater now. Yay. This is work top down. And I am knitting size extra small. I'm using US 8 needles, 5.0 millimeter needles to knit this. That is the recommended needle size. And the yarn I'm using is Woolberry Fiber Co. Rambouillet worsted in the colorway Stargazing. I am really loving this color right now. It is like this blue purple color. And I think it looks really great on this Rambouillet base. So one thing I mentioned last week is that I bought this yarn specifically to make this pattern. I bought the yarn last year, finally decided to cast it on, and then I realized that this pattern calls for a DK weight yarn. But I was so into wanting to use this yarn for this pattern that I'm doing it. And so definitely helped me in picking a size. I was like, I'm just gonna knit the smallest size because my measurements will just be bigger than the sizing for it, because gauge will be bigger. But I'm like not super concerned about running out of yarn yet. I'm actually on I bought 6 skeins of this, and I am on my 3rd one right now. So it took me 2 skeins to do whatever I have on the body right now, which is the front and the back. You can see the short row shaping here on the back. And then I did work in the round a little bit before I ran out of my 2nd skein. So this much in the round on the body. And then for my 3rd skein, I picked up for the neck ribbing, and I worked on that. This was like a lot of knitting. I think that might have been 3 inches of 2x2 rib. But it fits great. I was worried the neck would be too wide because my gauge is so big, but it fits great. What I have right now does fit great, so I'm feeling confident. And then I am just working on the first sleeve right now. I'm planning on knitting both sleeves before going to the body. Again, this is just because if I do run out of yarn, I think because this is going to be pretty oversized, like if it's a little cropped, it'll be okay, but I want the sleeves to reach my wrist. So I will be working on the sleeves, on both sleeves first before returning to the body. The sleeves are very wide. And that could, again, also be my gauge, but it feels fine. I think that this will it's supposed to also fit pretty with a lot of positive ease. So I am looking forward to having this as almost like a sweatshirt kind of feel, especially because I am using the Rambouillet yarn from Woolberry, and it is a non-superwash yarn, and so it does have this bit more of like a structured, kind of like finished feel, but also like really like warm and squishy, and so I'm hoping for a sweatshirt feel with this. If you notice, the stitch pattern on this it kind of looks like there's striping with like garter stitch, stockinette, and like a small little garter or like a pearl row, and it does the same thing on the sleeves. And you maybe noticed just like over here, like this doesn't finish all the way, and that's because there is some very subtle kind of like short row shaping that happens around the sleeve here as well. So yeah, I've just been working on this. I love working with this Rambouillet yarn from Woolberry, and this I believe is my first sweater in this yarn. I have knit hats, 2 hats with the Woolberry Rambouillet yarn before, and I've knit other things with my hand spun Rambouillet, but with, you know, like a hand dyed Rambouillet, I haven't knit a sweater, and so I am also curious to see how I'm going to feel with the finished object on this and how it feels to wear as a full sweater. I think from what I'm feeling right now, I think it's going to be really great. It's going to be pretty like hefty, but also light and airy at the same time. I guess that doesn't make any sense, but like Rambouillet yarn does have this like, it's a very plump yarn, and so even though it looks a bit weighty, it is still kind of light, if that makes sense. And the yarn is also kind of droopy, I guess, but you can still see there's a lot of poof in there. It's very, you can like squish it, if that makes any sense at all when I'm talking about yarn. But I love the yarn. I love knitting with it. I love the color of this, and this is great. I don't think I have too many things in my knitted wardrobe in this color, and so it's going to be pretty nice to have like a full purple, light purple yarn sweater in my wardrobe, and I'm excited for that. And yeah, I'm making lots of progress because it's a DK weight pattern, but I'm using worsted weight yarn. It feels like it's knitting up really fast. So I'm hoping to get this done pretty quickly. It's kind of nice along, having a project that knits up quickly along with other projects that don't knit up so quickly, just to make it feel like I'm making some progress. So this was a fun update for me this week. And then, this is my new cast on. I have one new cast on this week. I cast this on Monday. I totally forgot that Monday was a holiday. Well, I remembered it last week, but I forgot until just now that this past Monday was the Monday that there was a holiday. So I didn't have work, and so I got to cast this on. I talked about this before. This is my 2-color brioche scarf that I am knitting, no pattern, just knitting just like a straight, no increase, no decrease scarf. And I'm knitting this with my friend Emily Curtis, and also Megan. We're all planning on knitting 2-color brioche scarves. Emily started first. She had a 2-color brioche scarf that she is knitting, and she wants to finish it finally this year, and so she wanted some friend motivation to work on it, and so I cast on. I finally got some yarn combinations that I liked, and so cast on. I cast on around the same amount of stitches as her, I think, but we're using completely different kinds of yarn and different weight of yarn. I am using Coast to Coast yarn, classic DK in the colorway Sprinkle, which is actually the color you see more on this side. And let me hold up the skein here. It's this like tan base with these like dark purple speckles, and it's so nice. I love the dark purple in there. And then I'm pairing it with Sewrella yarn classic sock in the colorway Hollywood Studios, and this is a fingering weight yarn, but I'm holding it double. So I'm holding DK weight just one strand, and then the fingering weight I'm holding it double. But this was a great color combination, I think, for them to match, but also have enough contrast where you can really see that 2-color brioche thing happening on each side. And I'm really happy with this. I think that I have knit other brioche scarves before. The one specifically that I'm thinking about is my Mackenzie shawl/scarf by Sari Nordlund. It is a 2-color brioche. I think and it's a very long rectangle. The only difference is there's some like garter stitch diagonals that happen in it, and that one is it is so long. And so the plan is to not make mine as long, but I do want to knit. I have 2 skeins of each of my colors, and I want to knit as much of them as I can. The fear is maybe this is too wide, and then my scarf won't even be long enough. But I'm just going to wing it. If it ends up being too short to use as a scarf, I will just like find other yarn in my stash to just like add on and just have like a color block section of this. But I'm not far enough along, I think, to kind of like really figure out if it's going to be too short. But I'm just here supporting Emily and knitting on this. This is a fun color combination. I didn't have plans for this yarn either. They're from Stash, and so it's kind of great to just like start working on that. I will say I noticed a mistake. I was working on this during knit night this week, knitting on it while Emily was knitting on hers. And I noticed I made a mistake. I somehow made a decrease in mine. So I think that I cast on 80 stitches originally, and now I have 78 or 79 or something like that. you can see it here. I had like this knit column right here in my my sprinkle colorway, and it kind of just like disappears into the border. So I somehow decreased a stitch on one end, but I'm not going to go back and fix it. Just, nope. So, but it'll be fine. It's just, it was one thing I noticed. I was like, oh, what the heck happened there? Did a weird decrease, but it's fine. And again, I'm not following a pattern, so I am just 2-color brioching, and I do have a 3-stitch like I-cord edging that it's just alternating between my 2 colors. So that's what I'm doing with this. I think it'll be really fun. This is a good like knit project during knit nights or when you're watching TV, because at least for me, now that I got the hang of brioche a little better now, it's very relaxing to knit, and I don't have to think or look at it too hard to figure out what's happening. So, although I guess you could say maybe not, because I did make a weird decrease mistake here, but either way, great relaxing knit to work on while you're like talking with other people or watching TV. So, and probably a good travel knit too, as long as this doesn't get too long. So I'm happy to have this project kind of going and being like that, the project that is really easy to pick up and keep going on and not have to like read a pattern, because I'm not following a pattern. So it's really great. This texture feels really nice, as with most brioche knits, I feel like. So this will be really great. And I think the colors will be super like wearable at the end as a scarf too. Like, have a lot of, it really fits my color palette, I think, with like the other clothes that I wear. So it'll be really great. So that was a really fun cast on for me this week. And I don't have a deadline for that. I mean, I guess I would like to finish that this year, which is, I think, definitely doable. But I don't have any like short-term goal plans for working on that. It's just going to be like my background project for things, and probably a good travel project. I think I've said this before, like knit night project, and yeah, it'll just be a good background project to have. Okay, that's all the knitting updates that I have, I believe. I want to talk about my spinning, because I have a spinning update. And not just my Nest holiday advent, which I do want to show you, because I did finish 2 more of my little skeins of the Nest holiday advent. Although this time I left them on the bobbins. I was too lazy to wind them up into their little cute mini skeins for the episode. I mean, I just also, like, you haven't seen my spins on bobbins in a while, so I thought I'd just keep them on the bobbins for you to see it this week. These are the 2, camera please focus, these are the 2 for this week, and the tonal is really light lavender color, which I love, Rambouillet. And then this one, this bottom, the multicolored one, it's a Rambouillet silk blend fiber, and I believe this is my first time knitting a Rambouillet silk fiber. There was a lot of silk, I will say, so it was very shiny. I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it is very shiny compared to a non-silk fiber, and it was a little more difficult to work with, I think, again, because sometimes the silk feels like you have to kind of pull it harder. Sometimes it's like harder to draft the silk sections. And I didn't really, at first, there were some sections I was like, I can't even tell that there's Rambouillet in this one. And then the sections that came up that had no silk, I was like, oh yeah, it has that Rambouillet fluffy feel. But yeah, it was a lot more silk. There was no percentage on the tag for this fiber on how much silk and Rambouillet there was, but it felt like a lot of silk. But it was still a fun spin, and yeah, I'm still on track again for doing 2 of the spins, 2 of the little fiber things every week. And then my really fun spin update, I finally started I started a sweater spin, and let me hold it up. This is the Elberdritchel colorway from ZZ Textiles. The fiber is all Rambouillet as well. So really I feel like a lot of dyers have also been loving Rambouillet, and so a lot of the fiber I have is Rambouillet. But I started this, and another fun update is that I am planning on doing a spin with me video for this, and so I started filming that. I filmed the part where I split all the fiber because, gosh, there's a lot of fiber, and right now I have it laid out all next to me, and it's just, wow, so much fiber. Oh, you can see I also have I didn't have room on the table for all of it, and so some of it is like sitting up here on the counter. But I laid it all out, I split it up, and so now I know, to grab a little bundle every time I go and spin. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to hold it up so you can see the colors, hopefully a little bit better. It is just overall like a dark blue, but if you look closely, you can see some greens and also some red. And it's just so pretty and so subtle. I think that this is probably my darkest colored spin, like a hand-dyed fibers colorway spin, but it's gorgeous. I love it. I think really great for a sweater spin. This will also be my first hand-dyed fiber sweater spin. So the other sweater spins I've done have all been just like almost like just like a solid color, and if not like solid color, just like one color, and so I didn't really have to worry about placement of the color or like how I'm gonna spin it. But because this is hand-dyed yarn and the way that the color is placed on it, I wanted to like kind of control that color. It was a process to split up all the fiber, but I've been really enjoying spinning on this. You can see it's on a different bobbin than my other ones. I am using my electric eel wheel to spin this because the bobbins are just much bigger, and I have way more bobbins of this, and so I feel like it just lends itself better to bigger sweater spins. So that is what I'm doing. I think this is the first time I've used my electric eel wheel kind of in a while, it feels like, so that's also really nice to kind of like start using that wheel as well, and it's been great. I have spun, this is, I believe, 1.5 ounces of fiber right now. Yeah, so not too bad. I am aiming for a DK weight final yarn. I'm going to do a two ply fractal spin-ish, which is the goal. But this fiber, and you'll see it in my spin with me video, although that video is it will be a long time coming, because I am also not only going to just do the video where I spin it, but I've had some suggestions for wanting these videos, the spin with me videos, to also include me knitting up a thing with that fiber. And so because I have a plan for this spin, and I will probably cast it on right away after I'm done with the spin, I will include that in the video, but that does mean I will be working on that video throughout the entire spin and also throughout the entire knit. But my plan, I guess I'll say it now, depending on how the yarn comes out after it's spun, if it works out and the gauge is good, I would love to make the DRK everyday sweater with this. I think what really convinced me to do that with this sweater spin is Megan, a Naughty Mess. She did a DRK everyday sweater with her hand spun in I guess she also kind of did like it was her Yarn Jam colorway, and it was this purpley blue color, and it was really great. And so when this fiber colorway came out, I was like, oh, I want this as a DRK everyday sweater. So that is the plan, but we're still very early on in the makings of it. But I did just want to show you the progress on this. Also, yeah, it's been so long, I feel like, since I've actually shown you like spin progress on a bobbin, and so I wanted to bring down those bobbins to show it to you all. So that's my spin update. Yeah, so that also means I'll probably spin a little bit more every week, because I want to get those 2 nest fiber little things done still every week, plus work a little bit on my sweater spin. So a little more spinning every week. And then I have one acquisition this week to show you all. My friend Sylvan got this yarn for me. So thank you, Sylvan. This is Pearl Soho Linen Quill in the colorway Orange Cinnamon. I have never used this linen quill yarn from Pearl Soho before, and I've heard good things, and I just wanted to try it out. And so when the opportunity came up, I was like, yeah, I'd like to try it. So I don't have a project plan for this, but I do have 2 skeins, and so I can make probably a summer top, because it is 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. So I feel like it is a good t-shirt yarn, and so I will just be on the lookout for some patterns that kind of like get my interest for using this yarn. And in this colorway, it is orange, which I usually don't make things out of, but I feel like this one it's a bit more of a muted orange. Like, it's not a bright orange, and so I think that I like it. I like this kind of tone of orange. So yeah, some like fun things to look forward to as well for using some new yarn. Oh, and then, okay, I have other project plans that I wanted to share with you all, because I will probably cast them on this week. First one is, I am in a test knit for Tori U. It is for a t-shirt, and I have picked my yarn. I had to ask friends for help, but I will be casting on with this. This is Explore Knits Linen Sock Base in the colorway Beet Juice, and this was something kind of a recent acquisition from the Farmers Market collection, so I'm excited to finally cast on with it, and also in the Linen Sock Base, which is a new base from them. So hoping to cast that on maybe today or tomorrow, and so that should be pretty exciting. And then I've been wanting to make, have you seen the Grid Gambit cowl? I believe that's what it's called, by Samantha Guerin. I've been wanting to knit that ever since I saw that like it was in testing. I knew I wanted to knit that. I knew I wanted to use hand spun. My friend Megan wanted to knit it too, and we were like, we should cast that on together. And so the plan is to cast that on this week. And I just need to find some yarn, because again, I wanted to use hand spun, but I was like, I don't really have that much hand spun, surprisingly, that are not planned for things in the future, or like are full skeins, or like, you know, meet the yardage requirements or any of that. But I found this combination, and I think it's gonna work out. So I'm gonna do these. You've probably recognized this one. This is Satsumaimo Pie by Big Little Yarn Co. I think that this is Rambouillet yarn. I had 2 braids of this, and I used one, and this is the second one, a full skein of this. Wow, this feels so great. So I'm planning on using this, and then for the other color of that cowl, I was like, I don't know what to do, but I was like, what if, I'm a little short on yardage for this, but this would be so great to use. This is my woolen spun yarn. The fiber has some Angora bunny fiber in it, and it's so soft, and again, it's woolen spun, and so it really has this, I am really proud of this spin. I think it's my first woolen spun spin that doesn't feel really ropey, and so I am also, it looks so good. I'm actually kind of sad to not have these in skeins anymore, because they look like my little yarn babies, but they'll be great. And because this was a special skein of yarn, like if I could have it as a cowl, I think that would be a good use for it too. So planning to cast that on this week as well, and so you might see that in next week's update, because that's the plan. So some new cast-ons that hopefully you'll see soon. And yeah, just more progress on my test knits. I want to make sure I get those done. I like to get test knits done early, because I don't like to be stressed or surprised by anything with a tight deadline. So gonna keep working on those, gonna keep spinning, cast on some new things. I'll make sure to wash and block my finished objects this week, And that is about all I have to talk about this week. So yeah, it feels pretty busy with my knitting, but pretty fun. At least I have my everything I've made video done in editing, and so I don't have to have that kind of like looming over me the entire time. Like, instead of knitting, you should be editing your video. So that part's done now, so that's great. But yeah, that is all I have. And excited for this coming week. Should be good. Should be a good update. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed that. If you are going to watch my everything I made in 2024 video, thank you in advance for watching. I know it's a really, really long video, so just good luck. Watch it in parts. And as some people have said, like, I hope I get to keep you company for the next week, the entire week. That's pretty fun. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all had a great week. And as always, let me know in the comments down below what you've been working on. I love hearing about your projects. You're all working on such great things. And I look forward to talking to you all in next week's video. Bye!